Hello and welcome to PropTech Buzz. I'm your host, Olivia Rizvi. Today we are in discussion with Doug Newell. The topic for today's podcast is Building the Future, how Swarmalytics is redefining PropTech with AI. Doug is a seasoned professional with a proven track record for driving organizational success through expertise in leadership, operation management, and business administration. Hi, Doug. It's very nice
Hello,
to have you here.
it's great to meet you. Thank you.
So let's get started and please give us an introduction about yourself, please.
Okay, let's see. The first thing that comes to mind, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have founded or co founded 7 companies. All of them have used data analysis as one of the key parts to their success. Uh, I currently am the CEO of a company called Swarmalytics. We are using something that's very new called swarm intelligence. Swarm intelligence basically attacks a problem from many different directions in order to find a better solution. So we're using swarm intelligence to do predictive analytics. It's a form of AI, and I'm excited about that. Let's see. I started by studying economics, and that taught me to spot business opportunities. I got a master's degree at a university that specialized in quantitative analysis, and I found I had a talent for it. I found that by there was a problem, and somehow I managed to reverse engineer the data set and came up. I remember standing up very proudly in class and saying, I have the answer. I had a perfect answer because I had reversed the data set. So in any case, I became known as Statman, and we continued to use statistics in various jobs I had. For example, I worked for Cadbury, where I told them how many candy bars to make in the United States and things like that. So I used statistics and so forth, but over time, the amount of data being gathered was too much for the statistical processes. So, way back 26 years ago, some of my team and I spun off and started a company to use this new thing called artificial intelligence. I learned what the term bleeding edge means, which means that when you're so far ahead of the market that you're wasting a lot of resources and things like that. But in any case, I spent about 13 years explaining to people what artificial intelligence was. And then recently, well, here we are. There's enough data in the world, there's enough processing in the world. All of a sudden, artificial intelligence that has been around for 20 or 30 years suddenly has bloomed and everybody's talking about it. So I find that kind of amusing. Anyway, this company that I'll be talking about, Swarmalytics, we're focused on the American real estate market. Why that one? Because of my business training. The American real estate market is a $7 trillion market. So there's lots and lots of money there to be made. And the other
Doug,
go ahead.
You glitched. So could you then again begin from Swarmalytics so we can just
Sure.
that and put that together?
Swarmalytics is a company that is focused on applying artificial intelligence to the American real estate market. And the American real estate market is a $7 trillion market. And so there's lots of money to be made here. But the other thing is that there is very little use of artificial intelligence in the American real estate market yet. So we have it almost to ourselves at this point in time. Why is there very little use of it? Well, the data is very fragmented. Artificial intelligence requires great amounts of data to train the AI models and so forth. There are about 2,600 different companies in the United States who build at least 50 homes a year. Therefore, each one of them has their own database, often on a personal computer or something. The data isn't available for AI, and therefore nobody's able to use AI because they all have a little pool of data. Well,
Isolated data.
exactly, exactly. So we've come up with the idea that, hey, let's invite everyone to pour their data together. We will make it anonymous so that one competitor can't spy on another. So we'll clean up the data. But if the data is all together in one place, now everyone who subscribes to our service will be able to access artificial intelligence tools to their great benefit. So
That's actually really fascinating. I find that incredibly fascinating. Um, that you're talking about being intuitive, right? So y'all are actually creating a company where you're going to create integrate everyone's data anonymously, so that if there are new developments coming up in new places, then people who have had certain problems in certain areas due to the area itself, due to the environment around it, they can be intuitive around it and they can build according to that. Am I correct?
absolutely, you have it perfectly. And so that would give a builder insight into all sorts of things. One of the most important is, what should he sell his product for? He's built a house and he's invested, let's say, $400,000 into building this house, the land and the plumbing and the roof and all that. Okay, uh, what should he sell it for? A lot of builders right now are using a cost plus method where they simply say, okay, I'm going to add 20% to the what I've invested in the house, and they'll put it on the market for 480,000. Going back to my economics training, I know that's a terrible way to do pricing. It is ignoring information. Is this a very popular market? Until recently, like Austin, Texas, has been a very hot market because big companies like Tesla and so forth have been moving there. If you're in a very hot market and you just do a cost plus method, then you're leaving money on the table. Your house will sell almost immediately. That's good, but you could have sold it not at 480, but maybe 510,000 and so forth. Likewise, the opposite is a risk. If you are in a cold market and you try to get 20%, your house may sit unsold for months and months and months because you're out of touch with the market. So that's one of the applications of artificial intelligence, is to help builders price their homes. Another one that we have a tool that is up and running is a builder needs to find land to build on. Okay. Let's imagine I'm a builder and I want to build 100 homes in a community. I'm going to need, I don't know, 200 acres, 300 acres, something like that. Well, what we've done is we've used artificial intelligence to score every property in the United States that is vacant as to its potential to be a community of a residential community or an apartment complex. So we have two scores there, and we go and can give a builder access to that tool so that they can put in, I want properties that score greater than 90 on a scale of 100. And I need electricity in the area, and I want them to have road frontage. And sewer is very important. I want a sewer and so forth. They can put in those criteria and instantly get a map back of, here are the properties, and then we can flip over to a Google satellite view or whatever, and we can show him where his competitors are. All of those pieces of information allow him to quickly and efficiently choose the best properties to buy.
That's actually really interesting. I'm getting fascinated listening to this, because I mean, of course, this has this has a lot that of thinking and trial and error that goes into it. But let's try to understand your building, sorry, your construction in this company in an order, right?
Okay.
So Swarmalytics is an AI company that integrates like information available about all properties all over the United States, and I think you're
Yes.
working in Ukraine as well, and
Well, no, no,
Vietnam as well.
we have a team in Ukraine who are doing programming for us. That's why
Oh,
I
all right.
spend
Okay.
time with Ukraine. They are
Sure.
very talented, excellent programmers at the company that I work with in Ukraine.
So, all right. So, tell me, how long have you been working for Swam? I mean, how long did it take you to form this company? How did how did you
Sure.
think about it? What are the origins? Why did you? What problem did you see, and what problem are you solving?
Okay. Let's see. This company is 3 years old, but it acquired another company that I was involved in, and that other company was 14 years old. So uh, I have applied AI in different markets and at those other companies in the past. For example, I was a founder of a company called Predalytics, which applied it in the healthcare area. So I remember one of the projects that I was very proud of. We took data from a hospital and we used our AI, and we found that there were 150 patients who had congestive heart failure who had not been correctly diagnosed. So this kind of technology can be used anywhere there is a lot of data and where there is a value in predicting things. So there I used it in healthcare. I One of my companies, one was not successful, and that's where I was using it for online advertising. And one of the data feeds that we had was corrupt, so that's why that company failed. But in general, my companies have been successful, and uh, this company, we've only focused on real estate in the last perhaps 6 months. In the beginning, we sort of wandered around looking for where was the opportunity. Finding this correct opportunity is one of the toughest things in starting a company. So we started it, and still we continue to learn things. Um, I was just reading the Wall Street Journal the other day, and I found there's a giant company in this space, not a competitor, fortunately, but would be a perfect partner for us. And I was unaware of them. So I keep learning more about the building area. Houses being so expensive, there are lots and lots of opportunities to apply artificial intelligence to make the process smoother, to be able to anticipate the consequences of things. If the truck that is going to deliver the concrete for the foundation, if it breaks an axle and never gets to the building site, what are the consequences? Well, artificial intelligence could go back upstream and say, okay, no concrete means this. You won't need the rebar, and go all through the process and say what the consequences are and minimize the impact. So there are all sorts of ways to find that. Yesterday, I was talking to someone who wanted to bring together insurance companies and the builders so that the insurance companies explain to the builders what criteria will allow for lower insurance premiums. That's again an artificial intelligence opportunity to take information and use it to lower the expense of home ownership in America.
Wow. So when you were talking about all the information that you can feed AI, one question that comes to me naturally is, how do you consolidate the data? How do you collect so much? Because the United States is, it's huge, right? That's one of the
Yes.
reasons Yeah.
This is one of the reasons that it's great that the cost of storage of data has become so low. The other day I was holding in my hand, a little drive that held 10 terabytes worth of data. Uh, we have uh, it's approaching a petabyte worth of storage that we put all this
Wow.
data on. And we have that we use in modeling, we have about 12,000 different pieces of information about every property in the United States. So, for example, uh, I'm sitting in my office. We know the altitude of my office, basically where my chair, we know the altitude there, because knowing the altitude of every 10 square meter part of the United States allows us to calculate things like, what is the view? I live in the mountains, and if you have a beautiful view, the value of your house is about $100,000 higher, because you just look outside and it's breathtaking here. So by knowing the altitude of every 10 square meter part of the United States, we can calculate the view. Unfortunately, my view is 800 meters that way. There's another mountain, so I don't have the beautiful view. But in any case, we keep that kind of stuff. I've already mentioned the sewer systems, and we know where the trees are in America. There are a lot of trees in America, but fortunately, satellite data has allowed us to capture that kind of data. All of those 12,000 variables go into our process. And what we do is every month we predict for 115 million houses in the United States, which ones will be sold in the next 90 days, which ones will be turned into rental property. If they are turned into rental property, what the rent will be. And we also predict what houses will be flipped, which is when a house is acquired, rehabilitated, and then put back on the market. There's a whole little industry of people who fix houses. They buy them for 100,000, put 50,000 into it, and sell it for 250. That kind of thing. We predict that for every house in the United States, its chance of that. We predict where apartments are going to be made and what apartment buildings are going to be sold. We're just a prediction engine, and we have our own data center that with all that data storage that does the massive amount of calculation. We do trillions of calculations every month in order to make these predictions for the US real estate market.
This is very cool. I really find this so fascinating. I think you could probably open another arm for this company, and you could just start solving crime in the United States, right? Just integrate all like criminal data and see the patterns
That
through
is
the
a
state.
very strange thing. I was introduced to someone who does fraud detection, and I sent her a LinkedIn message last night. And she and I have a common friend, and I'm waiting for her to get back to me. Yes, there is a possibility to use this for fraud. And in fact, a long time ago, I did some fraud detection on this. We identified fraud for Bank of America. What did we find? People steal with round numbers. So if a withdrawal from an account was $5,000, 5000, and so forth, it was like 100 times more likely to be fraudulent than if it was $5,112.06 kind of thing. So yes, this is possible. You can use this for fraud detection.
Yeah, actually, this particular thought occurred to me was I consume a lot of criminal content, and I used to
Yes.
specifically, and I really enjoy like watching the American outback. It's just so beautiful to even watch from a screen, because it's so vast and it's so beautiful. And so one of the main causes for so many serial killers existing under the radar was because the United States was so vast during the 80s, and they had no integration in their criminal system.
Yes.
So it was very easy for people to move across borders and
Yes.
commit crimes, and
It, that
that
that's
came
just like
down.
that's just like our situation now, with each
Exactly.
builder having their own database about the houses they've built, and they don't know anything about all the other houses in town. They could be pricing $5,000 too low, but unless they drive around or collect data themselves, they never know it. You've got to integrate the data so that the artificial intelligence can find the patterns and uh, help you make more money.
Yeah, sure, maybe you can even look into some fraudulent stuff happening in the real estate industry as well. And you could actually create patterns, because it's so easy to move from one state to another state, and you never
Yes,
know. So it'll
yes,
help a lot of people. But coming to this particular point now, what are the challenges that the home building industry faces, and what have you seen, and how could you address this through AI?
yes. Well, one of the challenges currently in the United States, interest rates are high. And because people buy houses with like 30-year mortgages, small changes in the interest rates cause massive changes in the payments. Therefore, some builders are in fact subsidizing it. Even though the interest rates are like 7%, some builders subsidize it so that if you buy from them, you can get a 5% mortgage. Well, that's another thing that could be optimized with AI, that okay, they're subsidizing down to 5%. Is that the right number? Maybe it should be 5.5 or 6, or maybe it should be even 4.5. So taking all this data and analyzing how long something stays on the market when it's 5% versus there's one that for some reason charges 5.88%. We should be able to detect that and uh, minimize the cost to the builder of the interest rate subsidization while still moving his properties, getting them sold, things like that.
Optimize
Yes, optimize.
the least effort for the
Yes,
maximum proficiency.
yes, yes. I envision, and I'm not sure I will see it in my lifetime, but I envision that building a house is going to be made much, much more efficient by AI, in that uh, it, I can imagine AI analyzing how long it takes to install a sink in a bathroom. And maybe through that analysis, it turns out that, this piece and this piece and this piece should be all put together at the factory, not on the site. So plumber's time is expensive. Factory workers' time may be less so. So AI will determine, no, these pieces should be already put together at the factory, or these boards should be already nailed together or something, so that the time and therefore the cost of building a house should shrink, which means more happy home. People are happier when they own a home. And if we can use AI to reduce the cost and time and so forth of building a home, then that makes more happy people, which hopefully makes for a happier society.
Or maybe you'll be the propagator of that. So
Could be. It depends. Depends how fast the industry embraces some of these things and how fast we can get our hands on the right data. Again, that example I just gave you, we'd have to have a camera in or something watching plumbers do their thing and realize that there were inefficiencies and so forth. But we'll see. We'll see.
maybe you all can just also create forms that you give to the home builders who contract them, and they can probably give you an estimate of how much time it takes, and then you can feed that data in.
That would be a good start. That would be a good start. Or you'd simply, at the beginning of the process, you put up some cameras and you use AI to capture what's going on. That, oh, someone's now putting in a sink, and that it starts, and then he's putting in a sink, but then he stops for a cigarette, and then he goes out to lunch, and so forth. The AI would have to cook that all down to what is the optimum way to put in a sink.
That's that's really cool. I find that quite interesting. I would like to see how what's the most optimum way you find to manage something that nuanced, because putting a sink into a house, putting a bulb into a house, all of these things are going to be something that you will have to, and your company keeps growing, you will start realizing the need for all of these things. So I'd
I
really
think
like.
so, but we're starting with the basics, like how much should you price the house for? What land should you buy? How long will it be on the market? Some of those, and then as we get more data, then we'll be able to, uh, what should you put on the roof? We found that roofing material is in fact very predictive of the value of a house. So it could be that there are certain roofing materials that are very resistant to storms and also look nice and so forth, that maybe the AI makes a recommendation that in this climate and so forth, you should put this material on the roof.
Could you actually explain that just for me, for my personal like knowledge? How
Yes.
is roof predictive about the price of a house?
I'm not sure why, but I think it may be that more expensive houses, well, from my experience, there are houses, but they tend to be older ones in the United States that have slate roof. Slates form a rock, and those are very expensive houses. The slate roof lasts for maybe 100 years or something like that. So you can have slate roofs. I think it may be related to in Florida, many of the more expensive houses have tile roofs, and there are different qualities of tile in the tile roofs. You've undoubtedly seen, red tile roofs and pictures of them and so forth. So it may be that the model picked up that expensive houses in Florida all have red tile roofs or something like that. I'm not sure why it picked that up, but
But you
yeah,
you will learn that in time. You will figure
yes,
that out in time. The more data you get,
yes.
the better answers you understand.
Another one is I can tell you that in America, stainless steel appliances in the kitchen are very popular. And we found that by analyzing thousands and thousands of house listings. A house sells faster and sells for much more if the word stainless is in the listing. And the only place stainless appears is when talking about kitchen appliances. So in America, if you were selling a house and it didn't have stainless steel, it's almost worth it to throw out the appliances that are in there and bring in new stainless steel ones so that your house sells faster. So
That's fascinating, but that probably has something to do with how the utility of the kitchen is.
yeah, undoubtedly. And um, people
How
like
interesting.
nice, clean look, anyways.
Yes,
And
yes, it
anyway,
creates that. But that's very interesting. It just makes you. AI sometimes teaches you things about humanity, which is
yes,
which is so strange. It's just okay. Artificial intelligence is teaching you something about people's intelligence.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
fascinating.
That's true. It's like, here's the fact, and then we have to go back and this is strange that we saw the word stainless. And what I did was I instructed the team, go back and find out what words are around this word stainless that was coming up as very predictive of quick high price sales. And they say, well, what is next to stainless is steel. And I said, yeah. And then appliances. So so that's why. So we were able to fashion a story based upon the discovery of the AI.
Okay, maybe this is a silly question, but what if the walls were stainless, like without stain?
Hmm. Interesting. Uh, oh, you're using stainless though in a different way. You're not looking for stainless and steel, but rather
Yeah,
immaculate,
without
pristine,
stains.
and so
Yes,
forth. Uh,
yes.
yeah, that would be in America. That would be a odd use of the word, but uh, what there are other things. Uh, yes, if the house indicates it needs repair, like if the word fix fix something or paint something or whatever. In the case of your example there, the walls need painting. They have stains. Well, if it says just needs a coat of paint or something, the value of the house drops remarkably. People do want to buy their dream. They don't want to buy a pile of work to be done. So
Fixer upper.
yeah, fixer upper is not a good thing at all when you're trying to sell a house. So if the walls are stained, they're probably going to mention it as far as needing a coat of paint. Well, it's all it
Sure.
needs or something. But when they put in that it needs a coat of paint, it's going to crater the price of the house. That's where the flippers come in. The people that I mentioned that we predict, a flipper would come in with a paint crew and so forth and buy the house at 150,000 and sell it at 250,000 after investing $10,000 worth of paint or something, and no longer would it say it needed paint. Yep.
Now, that's an entire legitimate occupation in the United States, right? Taking like old houses, fixing them up, and just like um,
Yes. Yes. Only in certain areas. Where I live, for whatever reason, no, they just knock them down and build something new. But there are other places, particularly in cities, where land is at a premium. Then it's almost like the land is worth more than the house that's sitting on it. So somebody will come in and fix up the house. Often regulations may prohibit them from just bulldozing the house or something. So they'll fix it up, and here it's called gentrification. Uh, my son lives in that kind of area outside of Philadelphia. That beautiful brick homes that have been fixed up and are showcases.
those are really beautiful. I mean, I've never really been to the United States, but I mean, you see United
So
States on your TV all the
I
time, and
invite you to come.
pardon me.
I invite you to come visit us.
I will sometime. I definitely will. Where do you which state of the United States do you live in?
We are a very distributed company. I have employees in Florida, uh, New York, North Carolina. Let's see, I used to have one in Maryland, used to have one in Vietnam, but he moved back to New York. China, I've had employees in China and so forth. I personally have my headquarters here in the mountains of North Carolina because I believe it's one of the most beautiful places on earth. So I I just go to the grocery store and I see this landscape that people save up all year in order to go on vacation to places like where I live all year round. So I like here a lot.
No, the United States is definitely very beautiful. The outback is really very beautiful. There are just times you feel like you're in an old Texas
Yes,
uh, like movie, and I mean it's incredible. It's
yes.
incredible.
I
That's
was just looking at some pictures painted by someone who specializes in the Western scenery. Uh, I'll send you a few, and yes, it is very, very beautiful out there.
And it has a lot of spirit in it also, right? Because it's like a really ancient land, so
Yes, it
it
is.
really, it really has like a lot of spirit to it, and there's so much story around it. And I would really like to come, and I would really love to go to the reservations as well, so and
Mhm.
like look at all of that glory. But okay, let's just get to this.
Yes,
Now in the world of technology, speed is everything. Okay,
yes,
even my CEO Ravi says that we're in technology, speed is everything. So
yes,
how does Swarmalytics stay in touch with technology, stay ahead of the curve? How do
yes.
you all adapt?
That's a very good question. We deal with it with parallelism. We have looked at um, advanced technologies, supercomputers, things like that. But the most economical way is simply to throw more computers at a problem. Again, our swarming intelligence breaks a problem into pieces. When we score the United States as to uh, who's going to flip a house or whatever, we cannot build one model that incorporates all the United States. It's the country is too diverse and so forth. Malibu, California is very different from Mobile, Alabama. So we explode the country into 56 pieces. And those aren't necessarily geographic. Sometimes, like a college town in Kentucky might be more like a college town in Vermont than it is other things. So we have our own secret way of exploding the country into 56 pieces, and then using parallel processing, we can build 56 models all at the same time. So we can simply add more computers in a very economical way and double our production anytime I want. I think we have capacity to build, I think it's 5,600 models a year or something like that. And because we just add computers, if I landed a big account and I wanted to double our computer power and double our speed, I could have that probably by this time next week. I could have that in place. So parallelism is the ultimate speed. If you break a problem into two pieces and run them both at the same time, you've doubled your speed and without investing a lot of money in exotic technology.
That's uh, that's actually intelligence. You're using artificial intelligence, but to break down a problem into two pieces and then run it parallelly, that's actually okay. I could try that sometime. But I have a question though. So you have 56 categories
Yeah.
that you're talking about, that you break the your entire how you choose
Yes.
to build in an area. But how long would it take you to actually like if I want to build a home,
Yes.
or I want to build a, a lot of properties, or I want to build a small like place, a
Mhm.
residential area for people. If I come to you, how fast could you give me a solution?
Instantly.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yes. I mean, you're talking about like one record, and if we've got the data available on the computer, we could score one record. If I don't have it teed up right now, but if I wanted to show you houses like mine within 5 miles, what their value is, pictures of them, and so forth, I could just tap on my keyboard and bring that up and show it to you. So something like that, scoring a single record. When I was doing scoring of digital advertising, we were scoring a record across 100 different models in 4/100ths of a second.
Wow.
So it's basically instant once the data is available.
uh, I'm just curious to know. Have you ever heard about this thing called like a twin? So there's this concept that they've come up with now. The
Digital
people,
twins.
yes, digital twins.
Yes,
Have you ever looked into that? Do you find that
I
fascinating?
have looked into it. To be honest with you, I I would have to stretch my little brain to remember the details about it, but I remember looking into it. Yes, digital twins, um, and that isn't too far from some things that we've been involved in. It's like, okay, here's you don't know something about this one, but you do about this one, and if you can match them up and say, wow, this house looks so much like that house in every way that the profile of the person who wants to buy this house might be estimated by who bought the other one. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's that's very cool stuff.
It really is. So it actually helps you predict problems that could happen and everything around that. So
Yes,
that's also so because when you were talking about, how y'all work simultaneously, you'll just break a problem apart and run to out look for two outputs at the same time. I also thought that, okay, what if you like look at a digital twin and you
yes,
create something like that, and then you ask like the computer, what how are you going to solve this, what
yes,
problems can come up.
yes. Find that digital twin kind of thing, so we can have more insight. Yes.
Okay, so my next question to you is, what would you tell entrepreneurs who are looking to innovate in prop tech, and particularly those in AI? What advice would you give them?
Wow. First thing, well, prop tech is a large area, and real estate's a large area. Did you limit that to in real estate or just in general?
No,
Uh,
just AI and entrepreneurs.
okay. Um, Again, find a market. Some markets are much more crowded than others. The first market to adopt AI was e commerce because everything is digital and there's a massive amount of data. And so applying AI, uh, I would not go towards a e-commerce kind of thing because it's everybody who's got AI probably has an offering there. So it's more about the economics and finding the right market than it is about the technology. AI, if you kind of simplify AI, it is using historical data to make projections or to create text or whatever. Uh, but the concept is very simple, and I believe AI will be embedded in everything 20 years from now. So again, I found the real estate market, it is not particularly crowded. I believe every house that is built in 2044 will have AI. There will probably be cameras that maybe there are going to be robots or something doing some of the work, but uh, AI will be all over that and everything else we do. So right now, if you're in AI and you're starting a business, find a space like I found. Residential construction looks good
Or
to me.
crime.
Or crime. Yes, there's always crime. Um, that'd be a great one. In crime, you're going to be probably competing against banks, internal statisticians who try to do it. But if you do it right, get the business model down. If you anybody here's one, anyone who can convince the government to pay some portion of Medicare fraud is going to be a billionaire. There you go. If you want to be a billionaire, figure out some way to get the government to pay you 1 cent on every dollar of fraud you find in Medicare. Uh, we did some work with Medicare, and in the first morning of analyzing data, we found $50 million in fraud.
Yes.
So find a big market, find one that's not crowded, figure out why it's not crowded, and if you can break through whatever that barrier is, you will be very successful.
So actually, one of the leading causes of death in the world is medical negligence. It's
Yes.
it's not something the doctors want to talk about, and Maybe they won't resuscitate me after watching this podcast, but yeah, medical negligence is one of the top reasons for
Yes.
people's deaths. And if people are looking for crime in real estate, they can probably the person could probably call Sherlock Holmes, HOME. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's
yes.
on the medical side, there is an enormous opportunity for AI. Again, I started a company called Pretalytics. Pretalytics is now part of um, what is it? The Sky. Anyway, it's part of a giant corporation now, but uh, we brought AI into healthcare. I'm sure it was going in from all sorts of directions, but um, there are lots and lots of opportunities there. Imagine things like I saw someone who was making money by taking prescriptions and simply running them through a process where is this prescription more than the lethal amount? So certainly it's an error if it's more than the lethal amount. Hopefully it was simply an error that someone typed in the wrong thing and they didn't actually give the lethal amount. But there's one, just, watching to make sure the doctor's not doing anything that might harm the patient and just sounding an alarm if they do. That's possible. That's a
So,
great application.
I think Purdue Pharma had been committing fraud for a really long time in the United States, right? They caused an entire endemic in the Appalachian regions because they would prescribe opioids,
Yes.
very,
Yes,
very.
I live fairly close to that thing, and yes, an analysis would have shown that one pharmacy in, I can't remember if it was West Virginia or Kentucky or whatever, one pharmacy was prescribing thousands of times more than you would expect. And that is in fact an possible application. You have to take all the factors and predict how much the pharmacy should be prescribing, and then you look at the actual, and when the actual is 1,000 times expected, then bells should go off and someone should investigate.
Yeah, sure. But I think the DA was looking into it, and there were government organizations who were fighting against it. But sometimes what does happen is that money has power, and that is what
That's
Purdue Pharma
possible.
had lots of. And I mean, they had got the I think they had got the FDA certification where they said it was unaddictive because they had this little film on top of the tablet that they said it released the opioid into your system slowly, so it would not addict a person. But
Yeah.
obviously that's just marketing. So
Well, yeah, I'm not expert in all of the Purdue situation, but yes, looking for aberrations is certainly possible. Again, whether it's fraud detection or real estate or anything else, you have to predict what you'd expect, and then you look for a deviation versus that, and then you look for reasons for it, and then you have to find who's going to pay you for finding these things. Uh, Getting a contract with the FDA is probably not the way to go, and certainly Purdue wouldn't pay you. Um, so maybe you find some wealthy person who cares about addiction or something, and maybe they pay you.
yeah, yeah. But I think now there are a lot of people out there who are very aware of things like this happening. Only when things like this happen is when you realize that there is something to be reprimanded, and that is the only time you can fix it, right? You need a problem to solve. You can't solve anything without a problem. So maybe
Yes.
that goes hand in hand.
Hmm.
So actually now I have to come down to my last question, and that I would say
Okay.
with a heavy heart because I was having a really nice time talking to you today.
Thank you.
Um, what was your biggest challenge when you started Swarmalytics, and how have you learned from it?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for me and other entrepreneurs is just raising funds. Again, I have a team of people who expect to be paid, and just the power going into the data center when you have dozens and dozens of computers, the power, that's expensive and so forth. So financing the company has been a challenge. We have what we call bootstrapped the company, in that we have paid our own way. That has meant not doing things as fast and not perhaps grabbing some opportunities as quickly, which I always regret. It's like, I want to go faster. I want to go faster. Um, but uh, it was a choice of ours not to take outside money up until this point. We are talking to some people about investing, because now I'm comfortable that we've found the market and we've got the tools and we've got all the pieces in place. Only then should you take outside investment. If you're still wondering what the company is going to make and do and things like that, that's a bad idea to spend your time getting outside investment. So
But
it's
what
getting investment.
what
Yeah.
about government grants? I mean, you are doing really good work. You are helping society. So what about government grants?
I haven't pursued that too much. We have had, in my career, have had a couple of encounters working with the government, and I found them frustrating, so I avoid it.
But that's governments for you, right? They're
That
frustrating everywhere.
that's true, and you want to shake them, and it's like, uh, yes, found suspicious shipments coming into the United States, and they got all excited in the government, using AI to detect suspicious shipments, and then they had a reorganization, and everybody I had talked to, and I had taken 18 months working with the government about detecting suspicious shipments. They were all gone one day. Just, I came into work and all these people, dozens that I had presented to in Washington, and all gone. So it's like, no, I think I'll skip dealing with the government if I can.
Mm, sure. But so what's next for Swarmalytics from here, and how can we stay updated with what you're doing and where Swarmalytics is going?
Well, I've subscribed to your site, so I'll be watching what's going on your site, and where we're going is we have 2,600 companies to try to recruit into. We call it the Builders Consortium. So we're trying to recruit them so they pour their data in, and the value of the data goes up exponentially as there's more data. Having data from one builder, that's nice. Having it from 10 builders, that's great. Having it from 100 builders, stand back, I'm going to change the world, kind of thing. So we're going to be recruiting members. And as I said, we're talking to some potential investors, which they go hand in hand. I can do more marketing if I have more money. More marketing means more builders pouring their data in, means more value, means more products I can offer the builders, which means higher value. So it's all about sort of putting these pieces in place so they synchronize.
That okay, but don't you consider like going for exhibitions? Have you been for exhibitions? Are you going for conferences? You should
Yes,
really show
there,
this to
there's a
people. Good stuff.
there's a giant exhibition in Las Vegas, Nevada, in February, I believe. I think it has about 40,000 people attend, including many builders. And I believe we will be exhibiting there. So that's one way to get the word out. Another way is podcasts like this one. Hopefully, there are some builders who watch this and want to respond. And so I'll just put in the plug. dnewell@swarmalytics.com is how you reach me, or my phone number is 828-206-4062. They can just pick up the phone and give me a call, and I'd love to talk to them about what their problems are. I may or may not be able to solve all their problems, but at least I can bounce around ideas with them and maybe point them in the right direction.
So that actually brings us to the end of our podcast. And thank you so much for joining us today. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in to PropTech Buzz, the first app that integrates the power of products, leadership, community, and media to create a unique ecosystem for all things PropTech. Thank you.